Hi, I'm Kara-Leah from the Yoga Lunchbox, and today I have with me Camilla Maling. And Camilla is a yoga teacher, a dancer, a performer. She makes sound. She's also the founder and director of Yoga Lab, and her job title, what she calls herself, is an embodiment inquisitor. So, welcome, Camilla. Embodiment inquisitor. What is that?
Look, I've spent years trying to figure out how to talk about what I do. And it got to the point where I thought, look, why don't I have a bit of a joke and make something up? So I did. I'm endlessly curious about what it is to be a moving, thinking, feeling human being, and that's essentially fed into my work since I was quite young. Whether it be storytelling, whether it be performance, whether it be yoga investigations and teaching. And so an inquisitor was kind of interesting to me. And then the embodied, well, we're all embodied. And if it wasn't for this embodiment, we wouldn't have the opportunity to explore, consciously. So I'm particularly fascinated by that.
Are we all embodied, though, or are some of us just walking, talking heads?
Well, we're still embodied. I mean, if we weren't embodied, we'd be dead.
Right.
Yeah. So we'd be off somewhere else as something else, and we'd be some other energetic manifestation. So I think it's really important in the way in which we start to talk about ourselves. You know, we are all our body. We are somebody. Where it varies is our level of awareness and our conscious sense of ourselves as embodied beings, our sense of sensual quality, So we're sensate beings. We touch, we feel, we smell, we see, we hear, and all this is what feeds into us, and then we build our world accordingly. And my work is very much about awakening that and saying, hey, there is so much here. Don't you want to know it? Don't you want to feel it? Like, don't you want to be a part of it?
So when someone walks into one of your...
quite simply...
So when someone walks into one of your classes or one of your workshops and you see them, can you tell the degree to which they are embodied?
In terms of their relationship with their physical selves?
Yeah.
To a certain extent, yes, you can.
Yeah.
You when someone moves in the context of a moving class, like a yoga class, their personality, their attitude to life, their stuff, they are written all over themselves, and it's written through their movement. And because there is no split between the various layers of us, we are these highly integrated beings at a design level. Sometimes the way in which we show up in the world is completely disintegrous, or disintegrated in terms of, people often talk about, I'm always in my head, I can't get into my body, I don't feel like I can, or I don't trust my body, or I don't, I feel heavy in my head. There's all sorts of languaging that splits us up into parts. And I think that's really telling around the psychology of our relationship with ourselves. And so when someone walks into class, a lot of that is visible in the way in which they present, move, speak, interact with each other. Yeah, to a degree. I mean, people, layers come off as people. And some people are very private, and also some people are extremely good at hiding stuff. But inevitably, it's all broken down when you start to move.
One of the things that I read that you said is that we are walking, talking archives. What do you mean by that? It sounds like you're describing it in a way. A walking, talking archive.
We are. I've always felt that we're receivers, archives, and transmitters. And we are the point. I have a wonderful teacher, Alice Cummins, and she made a comment once that we are the point at which all information intersects. And I love that. I just loved that, because it really spoke to this sense that I've had for a long time, that we receive, we archive, we do stuff with it, we shed what we don't need, we cook stuff, it posits and then it grows, and then we either transmit and we let go of. So there's that constant, I mean, what we would call in yoga that constant spanda, that constant condensing and expanding, which is such a universal principle.
I guess so many of us, when we come to yoga, we're in that stuck stage still, aren't we, where things have got, the archive as such has got blocked or stuck, and then we start to move, and that's maybe why we find ourselves in pigeon bawling our eyes out.
Yeah, maybe it unlocks something, absolutely. And I think also this idea of an archive is, we have our whole life for this wonderful web of stories that have led us to here, or web of experiences, and those experiences are written in us, and they're of us, and we are them, and we don't get to here without having had that whole past of whateverness. And so when someone turns up in class, they bring everything they've got. That they can't not do that, because that is essentially this idea of we are our lives. And it doesn't mean that we can't let go of things and transform things that didn't serve us and were ghastly and we no longer need. Absolutely, but it still impacts on us at the level of cells, on us at the level of our psychology. It is written into us, as it were.
So then how do you teach yoga now? And can you kind of give us a little short synopsis of how you got into yoga and how you were teaching, and then that journey? Because I'm guessing from the languaging you're using, the way you're talking about it, you're not just teaching asana, where to put your knee or your second toe in, all of those things.
Tricks that we've all got. I think one of I have memories of doing yoga as a young dancer in Wellington, in a contemporary dance setting in my very early 20s. And then one of my main class, I have the first yoga memory, I think, is a class when I was at university, in the university hall. And it was freezing cold, and it was where everyone played basketball. And I just remember this set of mats. So I think that was one of the prime kind of key memories of intersection. And then it occurred in dance classes. It was being integrated, and obviously these teachers were using it as part of their movement practice and their philosophy. And it really spoke to me. And then I dabbled in it and played with it, and then really went, I'm very interested in this, and started to pursue it as a form in and of itself, as a student. And then when I moved to New York, I discovered a teacher, Sadie Nardini, who's now an internet sensation. At the time, she was just starting out. And so I was really fortunate to be one of Sadie's very first teacher trainees. And there were a small group of us, and we were on, I think, the second training, and it was tiny, and it was absolutely magnificent. And for someone in their early 20s who was trying to, really integrate a whole set of ideas around movement, around philosophy. I'd been a storyteller as a journalist. I worked out extensively. I'd been a performer. It started to kind of cinch some things for me that were really fascinating. And it also, in terms of my physical practice, organized me at the level of movement. I was very, I was this totally expressive, fast-moving, very dynamic dancer, and it organized me and steadied me and gave me a real sense of home, I guess. And then I slowly started to understand really what that meant as I progressed through training. And then when I moved to London, I went right into the Anusara scene. Again, I was really lucky to intersect these things as they were embryonic. Even though Anusara wasn't necessarily embryonic in its whole, in London it was. And so I was fortunate to work extremely closely to some of the more skilled teachers in the world, I believe. Yeah. And this went on for quite some time. And then all this time I'd been dancing and continuing in contact improvisation and improvisational theatre, and so all these things started to intersect And after a while, I was like, oh, this is interesting. There's a whole lot of synergies here. And as a storyteller and as I guess, really a philosopher, I became fascinated. And that fascination just grew. So when I moved to Australia, I was very much an advocate for Anusara for quite some time until the whole thing fell apart, though it still exists, absolutely. But what we knew of Anusara has changed. And it was the point at which I was coming to a full certification, right on the verge of it. I was just finishing it off. And those critical moments where you go, I have to stop. This is not. This is the most wonderful, methodology, technology that I have learned enormous amounts, and I will always be incredibly grateful. But I need to go and see what I am on my own with the synthesis of cross and yoga and embodied philosophy. So that's what I did, and that's when I opened the lab.
So when did you open the lab? What year was that?
2013.
2013. So for 3 years now, you've been kind of finding your own way with this strong foundation from Anusara and from Sadie as well.
Yeah.
So what does it look like now? So you're coming to Wellington and you're doing an offering called Adventures in the Field at Urban Yoga. And when I read the description for Adventures in the Field, I'm thinking, this doesn't sound like any yoga workshop that I've ever read about. You talk about elemental intelligence, which I'm guessing is like the infinite intelligence. It's prana. Is that what does that mean to you?
Yeah,
elemental intelligence.
Absolutely. We without sounding too esoteric, we are the stuff of stars. We are built of.
Can we go esoteric? Like, is it bad to do that? Can we just do it?
Without, that we are built of material that has been around for eons and well, for as far as we know, and it's coagulated as us, and this is where we are in the kind of evolution of human history. And those cells are infinitely intelligent. And when I really dived into BMC, or body-mind centering, having dabbled in it for many years, and certainly since I was in my early 20s, it just absolutely confirmed that for me. There is tremendous wisdom, and it is essential that we bring this into our own sense of ourselves, that we know it, that we feel it, that we attune to it. And what it does is we realize, and I realized quite early on, that in my design is essentially a blueprint for a pretty fantastic way to approach life. It's all there. It's all here. It's all been done, lived, and it's got us to here. And I'm not saying we are perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We are this wonderful spectrum that is absolutely ghastly and absolutely wonderful. And I embrace that. I think that's a very fascinating thing about human beings and our world. And when we get into the tissue, life's drama plays out at the level of tissue. Of course, it's life right there. Mm-hmm. So there is so much to learn from that. So Adventures in the Field, you are the field, we are the field, and we take an adventure. And we do it through somatic inquiry. We do it through experiential movement. We do use yogasana, because I think yoga presents this, or at least hatha, I think the asana presents a really wonderful landscape of movement and way of accessing into the various layers of us and moving energy and working in organ space. And then the philosophy of yoga, wow, I mean, that's integral to this work. Mm-hmm. And we play and explore the dimensionality of us. We don't pay much attention to that in our daily lives. Mm-hmm. And when we do pay attention to it, and we do draw attention to the intelligence that is inherent in us, that it is us, we, I believe, open up a power that is like I heard it described the other day as a soft power. It's a beautiful description.
Ooh, soft power.
Yeah, this potent, I like to talk about it as ease in the power and a power in the ease, like this play of, quite, that is really no better way of describing it. And that empowers our lives, and that gives us tools. So whenever something goes wrong for me, I look to, okay, well, what goes on in my physiology? What happens? Like what actually at the level of my physiology, what happens in this scenario? That's interesting. What if I tried that? And because almost every time it works. It's like, there it is, it's there.
Can you give a concrete example of that? So when you mean something goes wrong in your life, you look at your physiology. Can you put that into concrete terms for us?
So put me on the spot. Can I pull something out here? Well, if someone says to me, how do I, I'm having difficulty communicating with, I'm having difficulty speaking about what I really need, or in the context of my family, negotiating little children, we're all having to deal with what it means to speak about what we need, all of us, not just adults, but the little ones too. And one of the things that frees up communication at the level of our physiology and our coordination, our design, is ease, is this idea of yield, is allowing a settling and an integration to take place between, say, the head and the spine, or to settle in and give time to listen to what I mentioned before, this kind of expanding and condensing breath. And these qualities can translate into the way in which we communicate. So can we, when we're listening, can we settle? Can we, rather than react? Yeah, because we want to brace. But that, in the context of movement, if we brace, we can't sustain, if there's this kind of lockup. Whereas if we create this flow and movement and coordination, then communication moves intelligently. We can hear and we can feel if we pay attention to the condensing and expanding breath. Yeah, absolutely, that rhythm needs to happen in the context of family, in the context of parenting. It's very easy to tell a little kid to, I don't want to hear what you're saying because I'm not in the mood. But actually, we need to let them do this. And we need to just settle and listen. And then they need to settle and listen, and we need to be able to, it's there over and over again.
Yeah. So I get it now. So if you're having an issue with something, by turning back in the body and saying, how is the body responding to this? How would I like the body to be responding? And then you do the practice that enables that. And then you move from that space of, like you say, soft power. I love that description of soft power.
Yeah, and I think our practice gives us, our physical practice gives us a felt sense of that process. So we start to, for instance, at the level of, say, easeful communication, that we start to go, okay, well, if I can move, if I can settle and create a sense of ease in me as I move, I coordinate more efficiently, and I can do things that don't hurt anymore, and I'm not forcing them anymore. So I have a felt sense of that, and then I can go, how does this apply to my daily life? Yeah, how, and that thing that I've got, say, on the mat or in whatever my movement practice looks like, in this relating with my children, or relating with my partner, or relating with my boss. And at what point do I need the power? do I need that surge?
Yeah.
And where does that surge come from? Well, I know from my movement practice that surge comes from an integrated place of connection. Okay, where is that in me? Perhaps it's around the navel. Okay, whoa, here it is. And I'm gonna tune into that for a moment, and then I'm gonna move from that place. So, and we know that if we practice this, or at least when we practice this, we know that it works, and we feel it not only at the level of our physical experience, but the level of our energetics. It kind of ripples into that cognitive space. We start to intellectually understand it. We can certainly feel it emotionally. There's a whole degree of poetics in there that we can play with, and then, wow, that has application in our daily life.
So in Adventures in the Field, is it like you're giving people a framework by which they can reconceptualize how they use their bodies in their lives, or be in their bodies in a way?
Yeah. I struggle with this idea of using our bodies, but
I get that, because we are our bodies, right? It's not like we're using them. Yeah.
Totally. It's very tricky because we have to be able to have a conversation about it, and so we have to create these. We have to compartmentalize it so that we can speak about it. So yes, I guess so. That you have this undeniable elemental intelligence at the level of your cells. It presents you with the most extraordinary tools if you learn to have a look and listen and feel and come to Adventures in the Field, and I can give you a process, like a framework or a map to go through the various ways in which we can intersect with this intelligence. Now, I found a certain group of number of zones, but there may be heaps more. The beauty of this work is that it's living work, and it's not saying this is all there is, or this is the only. This is a really fascinating way to approach your practice and to learn about your lives and to kind of upskill. And I realized the other day I was talking to my husband that through the process of making Adventures in the Field, I've been through an adventure in the field.
Yeah, of course.
And at the end of it, I kind of went, And when, if and when you participate in the work, that will make more sense. Like it is very much a creative process, what I've...
So how has it changed you? Has it changed you? Or how has it changed you?
I think it's made me take time to consider where I am in relation to something that I'm dealing with. So what stage in the process, how am I, am I at the point of reaction? Am I even in a state of listening, or am I in a state of defensiveness, or I'm paying a lot more attention. And then because of the model, I have a set of tools. And so I try it for fun. I'm like, ooh, yeah, let's try it. And it works.
I suspect that right there is the essence of waking up. It's like being able to determine in the moment whether are you in an open, soft state of listening? Are you in a state of defensiveness? Are you in a state of reactivity? Like, what is your state of being? And knowing it, and then being able to choose a response to it rather than it running away with you. Yeah,
and also recognizing that all those responses that you've just listed are absolutely part of being a human being, and there's nothing wrong with them. And at the level of our cells, we do exactly that. We have a state of response. We have a state of defense. We have a state of, lock and off. Like, no way. We move away. We have a state of gravitating towards. We have the state of shedding. They're all there. And so it's also saying, let the work meet you where you are, not trying to say, I don't want to be here, there's something wrong with where I am, I need to be over here. Sure, you may feel that way, but it's also recognizing, okay, well, I'm here and these are the reasons I'm here.
Yeah.
So what am I going to do about it? Or what can I do?
I love how you add that layer on. That total acceptance of where you are is perfect, and you can choose a response that may or may not shift it,
And that ultimately is one of the biggest lessons that yoga teaches us, that we have the power to choose. And that if we attune to how and what we are and really listen, then ultimately we're empowered with this choice to move in a way that serves our fullness, serves our vitality, serves is essentially led by life force. Yeah. I mean, we could spend time being, and I could possibly be more specific around examples for you. Perhaps I should have thought of that beforehand. Specific examples, and no doubt I'll go off and go, I wish I'd said that. But I'm sure it throws up in you that these moments of, hey, it could be that. Here's an example of what happens at the level of my cells and then how I behave in my world. Oh, and here's another one. Oh, I mean, that it's everywhere, and because it is this.
Yeah. But, I mean, how juicy is it to catch yourself in action? Because in essence, that's what's catching yourself in action, isn't it? Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, Camilla, thank you so much for coming on the Yoga Lunchbox and telling us all about that. I love your work. I love what you're doing. I think it's so powerful and beautiful. And yeah, you're in New Zealand in August, right? At Urban Yoga.
Yes. Yeah. Super excited. And it's an honor to come and work with people I don't know. That's tremendously exciting. So, and thank you for the opportunity to talk.